The Gryphon Knights can attack both the front and the back line in a row attack. It is a flying class that has a weakness to archers and can also avoid tank enemy melee grounded units very well. It also is one of the few classes that has high evasion, the others being thieves, feather swords, and sword fighters. So it is pretty evasive, kind of frail. True hit is a weakness, archers are a weakness. And generally speaking, its initiative is quite low unless you go out of your way to fix it. So in this case, I have a custom Gryphon Knight that has offensive and go-getter growth types, as well as a weapon that improves initiative, and of course the dove plume. But let's check out what this thing can do. So it is an axe flying, 2 times dodge rate versus grounded melee, 2 times physical damage versus calves. Now, the Gryphon Knight is essentially one of the best things in the game at killing enemy mounted units, like enemy horse units, we'll say. As a party leader, you ignore terrain and trap effects when moving. Now, you also have to keep in mind that this thing is typically going to be slower than units on a road. So one thing you might find is that when you have units pushing, like a fortress or some kind of position, that if they're on a road, especially if they're horses on a road, they're going to leave this thing in the dust. So you have to be mindful of the speed difference because it doesn't get road bonus. And also if you have it fly over mountains, it slows down substantially. It has 4 stamina, type flying, 150 mobility, which is decent. Now other things tend to slow it down, but other things can speed it up. So for example, if you have like Clive or some kind of knight, the mobility on this should help you, whereas the mobility on things like Witch will hurt you. The main thing you want to do with this is either nuke knights, like nuke enemy calves, or go for some big gimmick, which is what I'll show in a second. All right, so for skills, unfortunately the demo doesn't have very many skills. It has high swing, which is a ranged row attack with good accuracy, plus 50 potency versus cav targets. Now that factors into the 2 times damage, so it basically does like 3 times damage to calves and more or less will one-shot them as long as this hits. Wing rest, recover 25% HP, double if afflicted, activates at the end of battle. Feathering activates before attacking with an active skill. Grants allies in the user's row initiative plus 15. Now this can be nice. Obviously you have to level a Gryphon to 15, which if you're running it the whole time, you maybe can do this. It's kind of difficult to level multiple enemies or multiple units to level 15 unless you're playing extremely fast and just like rushing through everything, getting a ton of kills, and then doing all of the auxiliaries. And then you also have Hastened Call, which is actually quite good. Increase the mobility of an allied units for 1 Valor point, and it lasts for 30 seconds. So basically, the main thing that matters is High Swing, and Feathering could be good if you unlock it. Wing Rest is situationally useful, and Hastened Call is useful for boosting your mobility, or boosting the mobility of any unit who's diving, for example. All right, so for Loadout. So this particular Loadout is a Freeze Gryphon. So I have Dove Plume to get the initiative up. I have Rose Knight Axe to do the same. Rose Knight Axe also gives accuracy, which is quite nice. Warrior's Medallion can be replaced with whatever. You also could run something that either self-buffs, like the Warcry Belt, or just some other kind of damage increase like crits or something. But basically the point of this Gryphon is to high swing whichever row is the biggest threat, and then get boosted by Frostbrand Tome. So what happens is the next attack gets plus 50 magic potency and applies freeze. And then the rest of my team attacks around the freeze and then situationally just kills the things that are frozen as well, depending on what the threat is. But this allows Gryphon to act first or near first. The only things that act before it are super fast things like sword fighters and thieves, which typically aren't the things it's going for anyways. And also those cannot directly target the Gryphon and are not a threat to the Gryphon. The biggest threats to the Gryphon are really archers. And this allows the Gryphon Knight to directly target either row, especially if there's like 3 archers in the back row, often just killing them with this attack, but also freezing them if it doesn't. And it can freeze any backliner and then the rest of the team can take care of it. Now for other comps for this, like other builds, you could just run, someone was saying they ran 2 Gryphons and went for like backlane nuke. That could be done for other things. I feel like the Gryphon wants initiative. I think Dove Plume and the Angel Plume are almost like mandatory because otherwise it acts too late. And the thing you don't want to have happen is have like enemy casters act before it or enemy archers act before it, or big threats act before it. Basically, it allows the team in question, provided you have a witch with Frostbrand, to just completely negate an entire row of enemies for combat, which allows the rest of your team to kill either half of the team or the whole team. And this really matters for later on. For other builds, if I want to just go for like damage or something, unfortunately, Crushing Axe is not that good on it. Now with high initiative, it can be decent, but it's not an AoE attack. So you could go for crushes. Crush just delays the active point use. Unlike freeze, it doesn't stop it. So if an enemy's frozen, if they do not get hit, they remain frozen for the rest of combat. The Black Iron Axe can be good for damage and like low percent crits. It adds 5% crit. So that's something you can do. The Warcry belt, I don't think I have it on this save file, but it's a belt that you give yourself a 20% damage boost for 1 passive point, which is quite useful because if you're going to be lane nuking, that can be good. Also, this can be decent. Carnelian Pendant, very useful, so then you can high swing twice. So for example, if we were not going for the freeze, what I could do, I could just go for Magic Conferral Nuke, which is also pretty nice. So we would target... We would only use this on flyers in this case, which could target her. So let's actually change that to flyers back row. So then we Magic Conferral up to 2 times. So Magic Conferral high swing twice, pretty big damage. It's pretty nice. So that's just like double cleave. And then you could add like a second high swing, like a catch-all. Let's remove that condition. So you could have like a back row priority and then just like a generic one, so it'll do it on whichever row. So then you can like double cleave, and you can also change out Magic Conferral for something else. So for example, if you wanted some kind of physical damage boost, you could just duplicate these conditions. So back row, flying. So then she powerful calls. Both are good, depends on what you want. If you want the magic damage to penetrate armor, or if you want the physical damage to just deal more damage, to push it over to kill. Now Clive here, he could be replaced with another utility, a cleric, a lane, something that can block, whatever, a thief, and then the thief could be frontline, she could be backline. There's all sorts of team comps you can run with this, but generally speaking, I would want to run some kind of initiative fixing so that you can actually get your attack off in time, because that was one of the big problems I ran into with Gryphon when running it early on, was it's just so slow initiative-wise that unless you go out of your way to fix it, it tends to act last, and other things would have killed certain key threats before it, but with initiative fixing, it can kill and do pretty good work, like you put in a lot. Now that it's actually faster, because the other thing too is like if it's not faster than knights, the whole entire enemy knight squad gets to unload all their attacks into your team, which could cause your team some serious problems. So now that it gets to act first, if there's an enemy knight squad, it just wipes them out immediately, which is quite useful. And also it has pretty good damage from the damage boost from this witch build that can target physical or magical damage boost, as well as freeze on her own. And then you get the AoE freeze if you want it. You just switch out this for the tome. So you have AoE freeze. And then of course, if you really wanted to, you could actually do this. So quick guard, it's not bad. It's decent to have when your knight gets attacked. But if you want to prioritize offense, you could do, you can have him powerful call the healer as well. So then she high swings with powerful call, and then she high swings with ice conferral or magic conferral. So both of those are quite nice. And then of course you want to make sure that this is also on this if you have multiple flyers. So in this case, it doesn't target her because her damage is okay. She's great at debuffing. So like she can apply defense debuff, evasion debuff, and then she can get like pursuit spam off pretty easily, especially if you change this to one of these. So now she can pursuit 3 times, which is pretty stupid. But yeah, pretty fun unit. Once it gets going, before you get the dove plume, it's kind of painful because it's not fast enough. But once it becomes fast enough, it can just backline like nuke. It can even just outright kill archers. So like if you magic conferral whack, you'll probably kill archers on high swing. Or if you powerful call whack, you'll probably kill enemy archers, enemy mages in a single blow. This really pushes its damage to breakpoints to kill the things that typically give it problems, as well as just demolish enemy teams quickly and efficiently. So if there's like 2 enemy shamans and you kill them before they can debuff you, that's pretty huge. Or if you freeze them before they can debuff you, or if you just kill the enemy healers or whatever before they can act, that's pretty massive advantage. So, all right, so that's it for this one. Definitely like and subscribe if you enjoyed this or found this useful. Definitely drop a comment as to what you use for your Gryphon builds and experts, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.